live.
You're just waiting for that to happen, huh? You're
Yep.
like, oh, wait.
It took us long enough today. Good lordy.
So, hey, everybody. First off, it has been very interesting working with Google today. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but, we're here, so I guess that's what matters.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, y'all. I was about to sit here and eat some popcorn, but
Me too.
I have cinnamon popcorn.
I have cheese.
Well,
I like cheese.
Yeah, I can see that about
Anyway.
you.
Hi, it's the Innermix show. Hang out. It's Jules.
I'm Simply D, and you have us now for the next, because we're a half hour late, so
Next hour.
the next hour or so, yeah. So I guess we're just gonna jump right into tonight's topic, which is, well, we're still in our stress and relationship series, and knowing that we have, a few areas that I think we just need to get to, because remember when we started, we had 10 different things that plague relationships, and we guys, because of all the questions you guys have sent in, we've only gotten to number 2. We haven't done 3, and we haven't done 3 or on yet. And this series, technically, the way this is going, could take the rest of the year, but we're not going to let that happen. Because every time we put up a topic or every time we go into a discussion, you guys have like 5 or 6 questions which are subsections to those actual discussions. So we've just been turning those into shows, and so it's been good. The feedback's been fantastic, and we're glad that we've been able to help. So with that being said, tonight we're talking about, do I have power in this relationship? Basically, is the relationship equal? Or does one person have more power in the relationship than the other? And how does that make you feel? So, which is topic 3, which is the third thing that most people tend to figure out they're going to be struggling with as they move forward. Okay, because especially when you're getting good into that groove of your relationship, that's when you start to realize that there's a slight power struggle that happens. And it happens in almost every kind of relationship you can think of. When your friends are trying to figure out who's going to pick the movie, and then it could be to where we go eat,
Oh, that's a big one.
That's a big one. Where we go eat. And then how do you determine who's going to win? And then if you're dealing with somebody with a strong personality, they ain't going to let you pick the place, even if they want the place, because they ain't going to go there.
But you know what's most annoying about that? I have experienced this just yesterday with a bunch of people. It's like, oh, where do you guys want to eat? Oh, I don't care. Like, let's say a group of 5 or 6. Oh, I don't care anywhere, blah, blah, blah. What about so-and-so place? Oh, I don't want that. I'm not going to go home. I'm going to go home if we go there. Okay, fine. What about so-and-so place? Another person says, oh, I don't want that. What about so-and-so place? Oh, no, I ate that yesterday. It's so frustrating. Picking a freaking place to go eat that will accommodate everybody.
Well, see, I've done it where I asked my wife, where do you want to eat? And this is before it's either right before we got married or we were married, I don't know, because it's happened so many times. And I say, where do you want to eat? I say, whatever you want is what we'll have. She says, well, I really don't know. And see, most people would say, well, fine, then let's go do this, or let's go do this. I, on the other hand, am a very patient person. So I remember once we sat in the car while she decided for about half hour to 45 minutes where she wanted to eat. Because she wanted to make sure I was happy with her choice. I already said I'm good with whatever. So whatever.
So it's not really because she couldn't decide. It's more like, oh, I don't know if I want sushi or if I want hamburger. Like, it wasn't like that. It was more like, what will you approve? And hence she couldn't figure that out, and so she couldn't make a decision. Is that it?
I guess either that or she just didn't know what she had a taste for. Like lately, it's been more she doesn't know what she has a taste for. So it's like, do I want this or do I want this? Do I want this or do I want this? Do I want this? Do I want? See, and I can simply, and I know her well enough to know pretty much what the answer is going to end up being. But if I make that suggestion too early in her thought process, it's going to be a no. And then at the very end of the whole back and forth thing, we're going to end up going there anyway. So I have learned to just wait and let her get to the mid part, and then I start guiding her the direction she wanted to go in the first place. But that's me. That's somebody who's patient.
See, I can't do that.
I know.
You can't pick a spot? Okay, then we're gonna starve.
Wow. You look like you can use a few pounds anyway. Nah, that's probably not the best way to go about it. But
that's
yes.
what I used to do with my brother all the time. Like when he used to stay with me, I will call him, hey, what do you want? Because I am so tired from working all day. My brain is fried. I can't think or decide anything at this point. So I asked my brother, you pick something. I will go pick it up or we'll deliver, whatever. I don't care. I don't know. Figure it out. I'll call you back in 20 minutes. Figure it out and let me know when I get home. Oh, I don't know. I didn't think about it. It drives me up the wall. And if you can't decide right now, in the next 10 minutes, we're not going to eat anything. Because I'm fine with it. I don't have to eat dinner. If you're hungry, you got to pick something. Because I can't think right now. That's how I used to be. Well, I still am.
Yeah, I can see that. She's like, that's how I used to be. Right. She's like, look, there's mayonnaise and there's bread. So that's your dinner. Oh, man, Miracle Whip sandwiches. Yep.
There's rice and soy sauce. You're good.
There's always rice and soy sauce. So the reason that we had to address this particular thing is because there's always in a perfect world, there's never this situation, but there's always kind of a tug of war in relationships because it always comes down to, at the end of the day, whose time, whose stuff, whose issues are more important, right? And so I have literally seen people who have debated about who has more issues while they're in their relationship. Well, my issues are deeper. Well, my issues are da-da-da-da. Well, you ain't got to deal with what I got to deal with on my job. Well, you ain't got to deal with what I got to deal with in my family. Well, da-da-da-da. I'm like, wait. So you guys are comparing how bad and you want me to be with you? No, you know, it's like, wait.
Like, damn, you jacked up.
Yeah.
You need help.
And then but we're competing about who's more jacked up. Like, that's even worse. People walking by like, they deserve each other, you know? Or either that or they both need to break up and get to somebody who can actually help them feel better about their lives. Because all I hear is negativity, you know? So you're out there looking for somebody whose life is as bad as yours, or no, worse than yours, so that way you feel not so bad about yours anymore. You know, like, but you there's always this kind of back and forth, and then and then one person or both people, but it inevitably happens, ends up asking, do you think that your stuff is more important than my stuff? Are you more valuable in this relationship than I am? Now, don't be like me, y'all, when somebody asked me that question one good time, and I just had
and you said yes?
Pretty much. I was done. I was done, right? And this is before I met my wife, and this is what I learned, you know, so that when my wife asked me the question, I learned how to answer it better. But
did every girlfriend of yours ask you that?
There's always a way that it's asked. Sometimes it's asked in mood, like moodiness, like, oh, okay. You know, like there's always some kind of, but they're usually saying, oh, so you think you're better, or you think you're more important, or you think that this, or that, and the other. There's always something, it's always in some kind of conversation thing. Like, for me, it was always somehow work-related, you know, or yeah, work-related, because even when I was working on projects in school, it was entertainment related, right? So it was always work related. So wait, can we go out to the beach and blah blah? Well, I wish I could, but I gotta go to the studio because we're working on this project. So you can come with me if you want. Oh, so we also gotta go do what you want to do. Nah, I went to that jacked up movie you wanted to see last time, and I didn't complain. Tonight, y'all gotta get a. I've had a very, very, you know, thank God I'm patient. Because I've had the last 4 days have been horrendously stressful. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So tonight, I'm working on keeping the filter working. But some of these old relationship things have reminded me on how little filter I used to have. because one day my ex asked me, she said, do you think that your stuff is more important than my stuff? I said, well, look at your stuff and look at my stuff. Look at how many people look at my stuff. Look how many people care about your stuff. You answer the question for yourself. I don't have time. I got important things to do. and she didn't take.
I'm sure she took that real well.
Oh yeah. She didn't. And then I said, well, see, but this is the problem I had, because she was always trying to compete anyway, right? So she wanted to make sure that her stuff was always more important. Now, even when I put her first, she wasn't ahead enough. When I made sure that she was feeling special and feeling beautiful, it just, she kept looking around to see if anybody else noticed how special and beautiful she was. So one day, I'm in the studio and everybody's giving me props for whatever project we had worked on, and I was in charge. And she said, she said, so that's why. So you have a big head, you have a big ego, and blah blah. I said, look, it's half the time I wonder if you're my girlfriend or if you're just my groupie, because because you act like a groupie, because you're complaining about everybody else looking at the hard work I did and not giving you attention. And then yet at the same time, when I get to go do something, you are all of a sudden a big fan of everything I do. Not because you're there with me, but because you get an opportunity to go do something you didn't get to do. You are a studio groupie. And back then, it was not that far from being studio groupie to studio hoe. You see what I'm saying? You just want to be in the limelight with somebody who's in it until you can take it over and be it yourself. And so I called her a studio groupie, but I didn't do it privately. And that was also another problem I had. I called her that in front of my whole team because
yeah. That was a good one, D.
Well, growth takes time. So
and a lot of fertilizer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. And I could spit that. Hold on.
Fertilizer out.
Yeah. Yep. I sure could. I smack you in the face with it. No. Anyway. Oh man. So. Anyway. But there always comes that point when somebody's gonna ask you, or you're gonna be the one asking, are you more important in the relationship than I am? Do we have equal power? And then I started looking back at some of the emails that we've gotten over the weeks and months and whatever, and or at least the ones that survived the system wipe, right? And this actually is a question people tend to ask, but they're not only asking in their own relationships. They actually spend time asking us. And then I thought about it. It's like a lot of times people do continue to ask us who has more power in the intermix equation, who has more power in the who makes the final decision.
We've gotten that question quite a bit.
Yeah, especially on the radio, we got that a lot. Like people are like, well, who gets final say? And then this one girl, she was writing asking, how do I make sure that I get the final say? How do I get the last word? We need to be equal, but I need to be equal plus one. And I was like, wow. She said because she can't stand the whole idea of being submissive. Because that's a sign of weakness. And so in her mind, submissive meant I give up what I want to give into what you want. And she wasn't having that. So, looking at your head now.
See.
Thought I was watching a rap video for a second.
Na.
Oh man, so.
Well, are there ever any, other than Innermix, this is an interesting combo, are there any relationships, and I'm talking, intimate relationships, or romantic relationships, where there isn't a struggle of power, where people just naturally don't ever question it, and it's just...
Well, there's always a struggle of power. I mean, even in Scripture, there was always a struggle of power in terms of right and wrong. There's always a struggle of power. And then, when people get into relationships, what's happening is you're taking two independent thinkers and turning them into one unified force. And that requires people understanding that their way isn't always the right way, their way isn't the only way, and their way, isn't the end all be all. They're not as perfect as I am. You see what I'm saying? But but then at the same time, understanding that and then moving confidently with that understanding, you can understand it all you want, but if you can't move with it because your pride is busting you up, like people can fight. You ever seen people fight knowing they're wrong? Knowing they're going to have to apologize, but you know what? Right now, I need to win. We'll talk about my apologies after I destroy you. You said, okay, that was me. But like, I'll apologize. I'll get you back. I just need to let you know that I can win even in the wrong position. I can win. I can fight you lefty. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why. Yeah, I do. It was my pride.
I've heard of, what I've witnessed also some arguments where one person has false information and gets mad at this person, right? Or so person number one has false information about person number two and gets mad at them, and so they go off there, and then while in the discussion, person number one finds out that he was wrong, or he or she, whatever, was wrong about even getting at person number two. But yet, because he can't say, I'm sorry, man, I did not, I was wrongly misinformed, whatever, he doesn't want to say that he's sorry. So instead finds other things to get mad at person B or person two about. But, whatever, man, like, why'd you say it like that? Why do you have to be that way? Blah, blah, blah. Why you got to give me attitude? I'm just asking. Finds other things to get mad at person number two about. And
look, if it wasn't partly true in some way, shape, form, or fashion, you wouldn't have got all hype about it. You wouldn't have been throwing up about it. You know what I mean? Like, so some of that must have been true. I knew you must have liked somebody else, because if you didn't, you'd have been like, you know what, baby, this ain't even the real thing. But, it's okay. I understand that you got the wrong information, but I love you anyway. You don't even have to ask me to forgive you, because I forgive you anyway. See, that's how you should have answered that question. But see, since you didn't do it like that, I know you've been hiding something. Stop acting like you hiding, like you're trying to be up front with me. You can't even be trusted, but I love you though. Like whatever,
Oh my God. Yeah, I witnessed that too.
That song is called Twisted Thinking. Because somehow that made sense to a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? I beat you up because I love you so much. Right. The only person who could actually say that, but that's with restraint, is a parent. A parent can whoop your butt because they love you. Because if they hated you, they either wouldn't do a doggone thing and let the world chew you up, or they would beat you into the ground so that you become part of the world. But when you are married to somebody, you're in an intimate relationship, and they, beating you up emotionally, beating you up. Well, that's a good question. Physically, I'm sorry. I was listening to other questions. I was like, that's a good one. But yeah, then you ain't in the kind of relationship that you really want to build on, because it's already kind of shaky, and you ain't gonna try to stand on nothing that's shaky. Talking about we gonna get higher. Nah, you're gonna be more unstable. So one of the questions that we got was, what if you're in the situation where you are with somebody who is always pulling at you to try to start an argument or a fight or something that's going to make you feel like you have to defend yourself? So, okay, a lot more now than before, and before, I guess, is like 2005. Okay, a lot more now. People are filled with a lot more fear, insecurity, and some ways a little bit of desperation. Like they're trying to, nobody wants to be wrong about anything they do. And then the idea of being wrong is so upsetting that they need to make sure that you are acting up, so that you cannot be the perfect one in the relationship, right? So they need you to act up, act out, act crazy. You see what I'm saying? Just to show up, and people used to make fun of this, where they would say, the only way I'll know if he loves me is if he's willing to argue with me, right?
Huh?
Yeah, that was a very popular, very, very popular way of thinking where girls would start fights because if the guy, like if the girl did something, like she would flirt with another guy to see if her man would get mad, or she would say something that normally would like slip and say, "Oops," she like. I've heard one that was so I was like, "That didn't start a fight," but where the girl said something like, "Well, my last guy was bigger than you, but I love you though," you know.
What? What?
I was like, she was.
My answer, if I was him, would be, "I'm good. You can go back to your ex all you want then. We done."
But
What?
it was a friend of mine, and I said, "How could you? Why would you?" She said, "Well, if he was willing to fight, then that meant that he really cared about keeping me. But if he wasn't willing to fight, then I knew that he really didn't care about me. He was just using me." I'm like, where did that come from? How does that logic even work? So if you push him away, he fights to get back, then he loves you. But if you push him away and he doesn't try to fight to get back because he figures you want him away, then he's using intelligence, and that means he never really loved you in the first place? She said, "Well, why you gotta say it like that, D?" I said, "Listen to yourself." But anyway.
Please listen to yourself.
Hey, man. Now she's married, has a beautiful kid. But it was just, man, I was, well, like.
With that guy?
Yeah, actually.
Oh,
yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, well,
for them, I mean.
Yeah, well, I had to, it took a lot of work.
Uh-huh.
And,
some growing to do, huh?
Yeah, yeah, all those jokes in there now. Oh man. But yeah, so but anyway, so how do you know who has the power in your relationship? That seems to be the most popular question hit my ear, but it's actually on the page anyway that I did the research with. And it was interesting because there are ways to figure out if you are the one with the power or your significant other is. And I started looking at my own relationship in the situation. I was like, I thought it was more equal. But I tend to have more power than I thought, and not in a negative way. And then when I talked to my wife about it, about this thing, she says, "Well, you're the head of the household." She said, "So all the burden of whatever's going on is going to fall on you." She said, "So even though we're equal in our marriage, I look to you as the head of our household to make sure that we're all moving in a positive and healthy direction." She said, "But that's what the Bible says we should do. So does that mean that you're worth more than me? No. But does it mean that we work together and I recognize the position that you hold? Yeah." She said, "So, yeah." And I'm like, I love that girl. See that girl? She deal with my craziness. But, excuse me. But
that also, like she said though, but that doesn't mean that you have more power than she does.
No, but I think the way that this particular, because people say, look at yourself in the relationship. Are you the one? Do you feel like you're the one who primarily gets their way with the different things that are going on? Who is it's the question that everybody asks, but nobody really wants to answer. But if it came down to when people look at your relationship, who is the important one? Which one has more value? Which one adds more to the relationship? And who is just lucky to be in it? And I said,
it's hard to determine that because I know, okay, so for instance, I know of some couples. Age range doesn't matter because it varies, and it culturally also varies. I know, like for instance, this one couple, they're older. The dad is the only bread earner. The wife stays home and takes care of. Well, the kids are all grown up now, but take care of household duties and whatever. So she doesn't make any money, but he makes all the money. Yet she takes care of everything. Basically, the man has no say. So he comes home with the check, gives it over to his wife. And his wife gives him basically allowance. So he makes the money technically, but she has the power. There are other instances where they make equal amount, and they equally put in a certain amount into their joint account. They still have their separate accounts. And then I think, and that's, but then, the guy also, without saying, he has a lot of power at his job. Let me just put it that way. He's a government official, but he's a powerful guy and he has a lot of authority. Yet at the house, he doesn't do anything. Like he just lets the wife take care of everything. She does the bills. They make the equal amount of money, but she does the bills. She bought the house, took care of all the maintenance stuff, with contractors, whatever. And then there's other cases where the woman makes more money and then does all the stuff, and but the guy, was supporting her all the way through her schooling, whatever. He moved for her, left his career, whatever, and just did everything for her. But then at the same time, if he was not there, then she would not be able to do any of it because she needs his backbone. So in that sense, I think, I don't know. So how do you differentiate who has quote unquote power in all of these things?
So that's why, because you look at things and you analyze each piece, right? Whereas some people, most people, but you're not normal. Most people, what they do is they look at, okay, I took a snapshot, and in this snapshot of these people, which one do I think has more potential and it has more value? Who brings more to the table? And what they're really asking is, if, because in this equation, money's not even part of the equation that most people use, because somebody who has money can always go buy affection. It doesn't mean that, you see what I'm saying? And then people who are they look at your future potential. You know how back in the day people might say, oh, well, Jules, you can have anybody you want because you're just worth all this. They see a value, but they can't even quantify the value. They just see there's this value. So it's easy to say who's not up to your value, just based on them knowing you, but not even having a real way to quantify your value. They just say, you look like you're the one that's, so anybody with you should be lucky to be with you. It's kind of like depending on who you talk to, right? It's really kind of interesting. But even in my marriage, people used to tell me all the time, because I'm blind, that I should be grateful and thanking God that my wife has decided to be with me, because I don't look like somebody who should have a woman who isn't handicapped or whatever their thing was. But then, as I thought about it, it was a very popular thought process, right? And then I was like, it wasn't just on one side of the family. If it had been all her families and that, then I'd have been like, it's your family, know. But people were always just, it was just one of those things. Like, well, what do you bring to the table? Well then, but that was in the family. When you looked out into the world, everybody said it the opposite way, because the family hardly ever. And I learned this. Family hardly ever sees what's going on in your relationship. The people out in the world tend to pay more attention than your family does, because they already have a view. They already figured out what your life's going to be, what they want from you, when you're going to have them kids, all that kind of stuff. They have a certain view. So, well,
they also know you inside and out, in the sense that they've watched you grow up. Right. And so the you today isn't necessarily who they're going to necessarily see. They might see you still when you were 5, spilling milk everywhere and like,
no, girl, we don't spill milk. That stuff,
right.
That was
But you know what I mean? Like getting your elbow broken.
You know what I mean? Go ahead.
Shut up. Did I come out?
She said, you know what I mean? You're going to make all ages be like, she needs to go back to school.
You know what I am saying. But
do you comprehend the words? No.
Am I being too verbose for you? Okay, so let me articulate on that. But yes, what was I saying?
Game over.
Oh no! Seriously, what was I saying?
You were saying that that it's because they know you, they've seen you grow.
Right. Yes. Thank you. So they might not, they might see you still as a teenager who, always got in trouble with the principal because you whatever. But I'm just saying, like, got into fights. They might not see you as a professional who grew up out of those situations or experiences and now is pursuing, a greater quality of life, who knows what they want and has a vision and they're fulfilling it and all. They might not see you as that. Especially if they don't live nearby, they don't hang out with you as often and interact with you and see the new you that you've transformed into. So that is very possible that the family views you totally different than the public, who will only see you for what you are now, because it's all about now what you present. So
well, exactly. I mean, it's like and this is what happens when people look into a relationship anyways. They say, okay, who is more valuable at a glance? Because that's often how the people in the relationship tend to see it themselves, because they display it. They display, people walk around saying, oh, we're equal. Oh, we're equal all the time, because that's the right thing to say. If you don't say it, it's not gonna work out well. I had so many words I had to delete there. But prick would have been a good word. But rhyme with it though. But at the end of the day, a lot of times it takes years for people to get to a place to where they actually learn to function, where they equal out, where they balance out. And it's because they have to go through enough stuff to realize the strengths and weaknesses of the other person. It's like me and my wife from the beginning. Even there was this poem I wrote her about a month into our relationship, and it basically said that I'm going to be strong when you're weak, and you're going to be strong when I'm weak. We're going to depend on each other. So that way, even when we feel like we're less than what we know we can be, the other person is helping us to feel complete, right? And I'll never forget it. Right, because that's how our relationship has always been. But in order for us to get to a place to where we recognized it, we had to go through some, crazy life experiences. And that's how come one of my proudest things, that I'm really proud of is that, we may not have always known how to talk to each other, but we've only had, in 12 years of marriage, we've only had maybe 3 fights that qualify as fights. And even in that, they didn't last too long. Because I don't do bitter well. And I know that, well, let's be real. I know that if I think too hard about something or too long about something, I will use it as a weapon. So I just need to put it away. I just need to put it down and move on. So, because I have one of those memories. See, Jules, I think, has a blessing in the fact that she doesn't remember everything. I remember almost everything, right? I can tell you, like, I'm not the one who's going to tell you what you were wearing, but I'm the one who's going to tell you what happened in the experience in that moment, in that season, in that time. So, and I can pretty much remember verbatim, for the most part, what was said.
Well, right? I'll remember if it made an impact on me. If it didn't, then bloop, delete.
Now
you're insignificant in my life, bro.
No, in my head, now I'm trying to figure out, now, how do you know if it qualifies? Ask her about it 3 days later. Did it qualify? No. What are you talking about? Oh, yeah. Ask her about it a week later. You'll find out if it qualified or not. It's like the government. It takes a week to process it. We lost it. But anyway. So, but even in all the jokes, that's primarily what people really want to know is, how do I know how much I matter? And then, so there were 3 steps to figuring out where you fit in the whole thing, because it never starts off balanced. It starts off cute and lovely, but it never starts off balanced. Not really. It's always kind of a struggle for power. And in the beginning, men are taught to give up a bit of that power to give her the desires that you feel a good woman is supposed to, enjoy, So, but that's just being, it starts off being gentlemanly and whatever. But then, by time what was it that thing said? But then there comes a point when gas is released and noises are made, and you know, and the
smell.
Yeah, the smell woofs out from the restroom, and you know, and there's no longer she's so cute. Now it's she's a real people. See what I'm saying? Right? And then a real situation comes up. Real decisions have to be made, and you start slipping out of the fantasy that lasts for, you know, depending on who it is, you know, anywhere from which was sad, like 1 week to to a couple of months. Some people can live in that, you know, beautiful romantic haze because the girl says, "Oh, I can't burp," but so she says, "I have to go home." You know, she doesn't plan dates when she's menstruating because she will not run the risk of, you know, anything spoiling her image. So she'll always say, "Oh, I'm working with my mom." I read a whole bunch. I was like, really? Man, this thing must have been written a long time ago.
Yeah.
but no, it was written a couple of months ago. So I was like, oh, man. Okay. Yeah, there are people who still do that.
But, you know, it could also be just because the woman herself, like, especially if it's early on in the relationship, she wants to feel as confident as possible, as beautiful and as sexy and as, you know, poised and all of that, and all put together. But a lot of times when you're menstruating,
you don't feel like that?
No, I mean, you feel bloated, you know, you feel like you're cramping, you're PMSing, you might say the wrong things because your emotions are all crazy, your hormones are all through the charts. Now, so it makes sense.
But okay. See, I'm weird because I'd rather see you at your worst. So I know what I'm getting into than to see the controlled, beautiful, you know, poised, whatever. Because let us go to the DMV one day. You see what I'm saying? And somebody is cut in line. You've been waiting there. You PMS it, and then all of a sudden, you know, talking about their mama, their shoes, their whatever. Like, I'm so sorry. I don't really act like this. Yes, you do.
You're gonna take a date to DMV? What kind of a date is that?
It's not a date. It's a like, oh, you want to come with me? Oh yeah, sure, no problem. You know, you invite people to weirdest normal places that you go if you got time. I mean, one of the first places me and my wife went was to the DMV. That's when she said she really knew that I was the right one for her. I was like,
weird.
She's like,
weird.
I was like, what's your name? She said, you put on a concert because I had to go with her. Matter of fact, because she was renewing her license or something, and she hated the DMV, but I made it fun. We put on a concert.
I can't do it.
Girl, look. I remember the first time we went to Costco.
I don't like lines. I do not wait. I don't like lines. Unless I can go to the front. No, thank you. That's why I make appointments for everything. I cannot wait.
See, you guys, this is how this balance works. See, this is how we work. Because I'm the dude who says, you know what, Jules, is not a big deal. Let's just wait in line. You know, might meet some cool people or whatever. She's like, we could just made an appointment. But
I'm like, I'll let me see what I can do.
Oh man. So one of the best places you could ever take Jules is Costco. Do that. You know, be a creative dater. Be like, hey girl, what you want? Look, we got chips right here. They have it now. Sushi right here, girl. Take everywhere.
You want some steak? Here's a tri-tip.
They got tri-tip right here, girl. Like, look, they got juice over here. Let's go down this aisle twice. You thirsty? We get 2 cups. Don't worry about it.
I'll give you mine.
Don't say I didn't do nothing for you. And we got exercise too. Girl, look, we done did everything.
You want to watch some TV?
Got a massage chair for you right here, girl. Everything you need right here.
No.
Oh, man. Did you?
I do love me some Costco. I do.
I'm the person that a lot of my friends won't go to Costco with me because I walk around and pretend we're on a date. And I'll do that exact same thing. Except one day I pulled out a paper plate.
Oh my god.
They're like, D, oh my god, how you gonna do that to me? I'm like, please, girl, you are.
Oh my god.
People were cracking up. So, good times. Oh man, I'm crying. Anyway.
Hilarious. That's pretty hilarious.
Look, I will sing anywhere. What makes you think I won't act like a nut anywhere? You see what I'm saying? But anyway, so so this whole power thing. One, yes, just in a moment, you can. People tend to present in the whole, like I said, the equal, we're balanced, blah 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 thing. But what really ends up happening is that's not the way the people see it, because it's hard to. What's a good way to say? It's hard to believe that Heidi Klum and Seal are equal. Were equal.
Why?
Because she looked like she was in charge of everything, and he loved her too much. Like the thing was, he loved her, so he would put her first. She loved her, so she would put her first too. You know, she spent time talking about him, but not as much as she spent talking about her. You see what I'm saying? Like it was, so you could tell that the feelings were more one-sided. Even like my friend said about my ex, even when I thought everything was great, we were, going everywhere together, blah, blah, everybody was always saying you care more for her than she does for you. Because at the end of the day, even though you bring more to the table.
Wait, so hold up. So if that was the case, that you cared more for her than she did for you, which, that does definitely happen all the time in relationships. But does that mean because you cared more that she has more power?
No, it meant that I was the catch and that I didn't use the power. Like, women, now, I thought this was interesting, but a lot of women would tell me, you're wasting your time with her, but you need someone like me because I will appreciate what you do, and you're a great catch and blah, blah. Where, because I was doing the whole be the gentleman thing, put her needs before my own thing and whatever, they said I had the power. I didn't realize it, but they said I had the power, and she would just abuse the fact that I cared about her. Kind of like Seal technically would have been the person who had more power because he reaches out around the world way before she even came along. People loved Seal. They, adored him, and he could go into dignitaries, homes and whatever, where she was just a model. And then as she started to become more than just a model, she started to really feel in herself. Because before she was just a great model. That, Heidi Klum, supermodel, great, fantastic. But she didn't have the weight, the value, that he had in terms of how to touch the world. And people always heard the passion in his voice. You can't feel the passion in her walk. You see what I'm saying? You just heard the passion. But and this is the example that one of the sites used was, Seal had more power, but he gave up that power. He was more valuable, but he gave up what the industry considered to be the value so that she could stand out front. Because you stopped hearing from him. You stopped seeing as much from him so that she could have that limelight. Because if he and her were in the limelight together and he was still classic Kiss from a Rose Seal, she wouldn't have stood a chance. You see what I'm saying? Because everybody would have been asking, well, where's your husband? Because they like seeing him in the white suits. They like seeing him show up. That'd be like her being married to Tyson Beckford if you want to put two models together. After a while, they'd be like, where's Tyson? You look the same.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean, Heidi Klum, she's, don't hate me, people, for saying this, because I do love me some Heidi Klum, but she's not Kate Moss. No. Kate Moss is like, the model of like, post Twiggy. She's like the model, that everybody wants to hire. She had, but let's say, Heidi Klum was a Victoria's Secret model,
right?
Most known for that. And then after, she did a lot of other things. She became a brand herself. She branded herself really well thereafter. But as far as in the hierarchy with branding, she's not anywhere near que más.
Right.
So I get it that what you're, I get that part, but then at the same time, I don't know if she would be completely discarded if she was studying, if Seal was still doing his thing. I think they would have been a beautiful couple. I mean, they were a beautiful couple. Everybody said they were a beautiful couple, but I don't think she was unnecessary or like less than per se.
I don't know if hold on, I'm thinking about everything I've signed. Okay, I don't know. Sometimes I have to do that, honestly. But I don't know if, you know how you say she branded herself. I don't know if some of that branding opportunity would have happened if she had not been married to Seal. And that's all we're going to say about that. So, it's like it's like even when people like even in my ear, like I'm hearing all these different couples like Ben Affleck and Jennifer Gardner, who has more power, who is more who is more needed. I think when it comes down to balanced couples, that one. I like how they do it, kind of like Brad Pitt and Angelina, where they kind of take turns, making sure that each other have an opportunity to do and pursue their passion while taking care of kids and all that kind of stuff. A lot of you guys are talking about Jay-Z, Beyonce. Now, look, let me tell you. Okay. Beyonce is a very powerful, very well respected, and, a lot of women want to be her, I guess. So I'm going to put my feelings about her, aside for a second and just say that no matter how much people scream Beyonce, and no matter how much more money she makes than Jay-Z, he's still an establishment where she is still an artist. And so he doesn't have to use as much money, spend as much to do the exact same things that she does. And it used to be an industry thing where they would say that women cost 2 to 3 times more money you have to spend 2 or 3 times more on them to become half as popular as a male artist. Well, Beyonce, now she's become a brand unto herself, but her brand is not as powerful as the Jay-Z brand. But her brand is very Beyonce. I am Beyonce. She maybe did her little clothing line thing, and I think that's about it, right? She did a clothing line in her fragrance thing or whatever. Whereas Jay tapped into so many things, he became an establishment. So even when he's not there, these things will still run. Plus the fact that he owns Rock Nation doesn't hurt. But but it's but it'll run with or without him. With her, she made it sure that she was her brand. So once she's gone, stuff stops moving. So she always has to be doing the next thing. And in the beginning, I was watching an interview where she said she wanted to retire at the age of 30. She could have retired, started a family or whatever. But she realized, because when she was pregnant and all that kind of stuff, she realized that she still had to work. She still had to push. She still had to, for her name to stay relevant. She couldn't sit back like Jay-Z for 2 years and be like, "I'm out, y'all. Go buy me a basketball team and chill on a beach." Like you couldn't do that. She cannot do that, because then her clothes stop selling. Her things. I mean, you look at the numbers. Things halted. Now, when she does a concert tour, she makes more money than him. When she is on, when she sells her albums, she sells more units than him. But but when you ask who would you rather have, Jay or Beyonce, at a particular thing, if you want to raise money, both of them, great. But if you want to talk about a power raise, like you're trying to get influence, you want Jay. If you want to make some money off of some people who just love idolizing, then you go after Beyonce. Jay is great for politics. Beyonce shows up at politics, shows up at politicians' functions. She's not great for politics. You know what I'm saying?
She's eye candy for politicians.
She's eye candy. I'm Beyonce. She is her brand. So she is not diversified at all. So when it comes down to who has the power, it's Jay. Matter of fact, one person said, or a lot of people have said, her value went up when she started dating him.
Yeah, that's true.
But if he had to just start, but his power did not budge at all from having dated her. It didn't make any difference in his stock. So
is it because I wonder, is it because she came from a group, and he was himself from the get-go, and
Yeah, well,
already had made a name for himself, and she was starting out to make a name for herself.
I don't think that's so much it, because I mean there are people who've done it successfully from groups and still showed that they had value because they were more than just the person from the group. Beyonce made it all about Beyonce. So because of it, there, you know, like Jay made it about Jay, he made it about The Rock, he made it about, he was already sharing it. It was no longer, it wasn't always, hey, I'm Jay, and that's all there is to it. How did we do that? But anyway, you know, it's about more. It's about the sharing. And like, I hope I got your name right. Tiffany said, kind of like how we do it. It's all about sharing. It's not about, it's all D. You know, all me, all day, every day. It's all Jules, blah, blah. We're sharing it. With Beyonce, even when she was in the group, it was all about Beyonce.
Right.
So
she
you
let
can,
it be known at the Super Bowl, too.
Yeah.
Girls, get off my stage, is what she said.
Wow. You know what I'm saying? You know, where people fall in love with the person who doesn't care, that it's not all about them. Like, this is the reason why people respect Jay-Z more than they like Diddy. Even though they both make about the same amount of money, Diddy is always Diddy. Jay will come and feature and not care. He'd be like, hey, you know, let me lay this for you real quick. He'll work with people that you barely even know and still be like, cool. Where Diddy's like, he's going to say his name at least 15 times in the song.
Yes. You know what I'm saying? That's the feature on every music video.
Yeah. Just walking his dog. Gonna be in a smock says Diddy dog. You know, like, I don't know. He gonna have. But see, even he's starting to diversify even more now, because now at least he got himself a network. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how good it is. I ain't seen it, but you know, but people are actually saying it's doing well. But you see what I'm saying? But people are starting to say it's not. You know, people like ego in entertainment, but that ego. Having that ego is only going to work so much. That's why Eminem is so popular, because as creative and as good as he is at what he does, he's always having fun with his friends. It's not just about, hey, I'm M, I'm the it, and I can destroy you lyrically, which he probably can. You see what I'm saying? But he's saying, you know, but he's also saying, but I love hanging out with Dre, and he's, you know, and all that, and I love hanging out with D12, and I miss my friend Proof, and you know, so he's telling you, he's letting you in. Beyonce doesn't let you in. She says, I am Queen Diva, and you are going to respect my diva, because a diva is just another word. You know, it's just a female hustler. That's really what it is. That's what it is. You know, and then Jay comes on, he lays things with her, and he acts like it's not even work. He's like, cool, you know, go ahead, do your thing, whatever. You should have got your hair combed for that one video, though. I'm just saying, you know, and then. But it always comes down to who has more power, and then how do I display my power? Like when Jay married Beyonce, she busted out and wanted to make sure she stood on her own, because remember that Dangerously in Love video? No, not Dangerously in Love.
Crazy in Love.
Crazy in Love, right. That one was the first time you saw them together. That's when they first decided they wanted to hook up, right? But if he had not been on that video, we probably would not be talking about Beyonce today. You know, because he made that video pop. Then he followed up with Bonnie and Clyde. It was almost like remember what happened with Jennifer Lopez, how she started doing all these same type of movies because she could only play one real character, right? So they wrote all these movies around her. And then I almost broke a confidentiality thing. So let's just say just that part, right? So that's what they did with Jay and Beyonce, because they realized that he added so much value to her. Because wasn't nobody checking for her until he came along. She may have got that solo deal, but that solo deal budget wasn't nothing until he jumped on. So and then he
was just more well respected, like as an artist, I think, from the get go, because he did have, like, you know, top 40 chart hits, but also was very, like, lyrically he was a master, and he, you know, underground, had a huge following and very loyal following.
Yes.
Yeah. Beyonce and Destiny, they're also pop. And pop, just here today, gone tomorrow.
Well, it's not just, but it wasn't even just that. It was because he was one of the first, him and Diddy were the first to diversify and say, I want to do more than music, right? And so that made him now an establishment versus her, like, she only started doing stuff because it became trendy, not because it was anything you know, because everybody has a perfume line. You know, everybody's
stop.
Yeah,
they don't all smell good. Let me tell you.
I don't want to spray nothing Christina on my face. You see what I'm saying? Like I don't near my face. You know,
dirty Christina, dirty Christina.
Oh my God. See, I'm sorry, y'all. See, y'all don't understand the things that we've dealt with a lot of these people we talking about. So that's all we can say about what we're saying. But oh no, I just had a flashback to the Christina. Anyway, D, bring it back. Bring it back, D. Anyway, so how do you deal with the fact that there's not equal, you know, that relationships are not equal? Well, relationships were designed where people can be respected and equal in the fact that they, you know, are together. But honestly, if like I decided, like I said earlier, me and my wife, we're like a teeter-totter. We really balance each other out. Because when I'm down, she's up. Hopefully, when she's down, I'm up. So I can always bring her back up. You know, if me and Jules were the same person, y'all would not be hearing this kind of conversation.
I mean, we are very alike in many ways, yes, but we're also very different in many ways, which makes it work.
God.
Yeah.
So, so what do you do when you feel like you don't have the power in your relationship? Well, and that was a good question. Thank you, Anthony. So, one, try to have better discussions about what you would like to see happen with the relationship. A lot of times when people don't feel like they have power, what they end up doing is they start their insecurities start to overtake, I guess. So you start to lash out with your insecurities versus staying, you know, contained, you know, staying strong and contained and saying, you know, I really would like to do this, or I really would like to such and such. If you don't assert yourself, no, be assertive. Do not be aggressive in a relationship, because when you start being aggressive, that immediately gets a person saying, look, you cannot be, okay, don't be in a relationship with me and be aggressive, because I like to fight and I win. Okay, if your tone to me sounds a little aggressive and you don't recognize that I'm receiving your tone as aggressive, then don't be mad when I beat your when I win lyrically. I mean, you know, in this conversation, what am I talking about? When I just went to a rap battle. But don't be mad because you brought up how I didn't do such and such, and then I talk about how you never did such and such. See, now you go. You see what I'm saying? Don't be mad. Don't be mad when I cut you off, finish your sentence, and then come back at you with what you should have said, and that way it would have worked out a little better for you. You know, like, because I've done that. See, these are things I've done. You know, so don't do those things. Don't smile at me like.
I'm just gonna smile because I witnessed some of this too. I do the same. Anyway.
You guys, look, I've said it before. I'll say it again. You guys don't ever want to be in a fight with me and Andrew at the same time. It's just not going to happen.
Just dig a grave. Just
you know, and the thing with me is I don't even get mad when I fight. I just tell the truth. Mm-hmm. That's it.
I just tell the truth with a tone. That's
all. I'll lift my head up. I'll do the whole Jesus thing. Put my, start writing something down. Look up at you and like, now, remember that time? I'll let you beat yourself up. But back to what we were.
Yeah, back to what we were saying. I think it's inevitable that sometimes people don't recognize, especially new relationships. I think people don't recognize that the other person might not be asserting themselves or unhappy with how the decisions are made or whatever, because in two individuals they're so used to, unless you're consecutively in relationships all the time, like repetitive whatever.
No. I've recently seen a situation where somebody is in a lot of relationships and it actually makes that process a little harder.
Interesting.
So, then scratch
that part. Yeah. because I'm talking from somebody who's been single for a very long time, and I'm so used to having things my way, done my way, when I want it, how I want it, you know, not having to sacrifice with my wants and desires or my time for somebody else's. So, like, when I put myself in a situation, or when I envision myself in a relationship, I feel like it'll be inevitable that there will be some, you know, collision happening, because the person that I will be in a relationship with probably might come at me the same way, where he will be so used to doing things his way, or the things that he wants, as opposed to, and then at the same time me doing what I want and how I want, blah blah blah, with my friends, with his friends, you know, whatever. So it just makes sense that there will be that. But then at the same time, if I'm so used to saying, oh, let's go here, because I remember, you know, I'm so used to going there for lunch, or I'm so used to going, you know, going to, on Saturdays, going to the movies, or whatever it is. But then he has his own agenda, but he doesn't tell me, then I won't know that that's not what he wants, or vice versa. Like, if I don't let the guy know that, hey, I don't like doing that, or let's go here instead, or whatever, then the person I'm with won't even know that that bothers me, or I don't like it, or I feel trapped, or I feel insignificant, or any of it, unless I say something. And then not to say it in, like what Dee said, in an aggressive, defensive way, but then voice your concerns in a very cordial, mature conversation.
Angie was like, Angie just said, she's like, she said, now, hold on, I heard a preach on girl, but that wasn't from Angie. Then Angie said, exactly, like, how do you communicate with somebody when you spent a lot of time trying to make sure that everything was sweet, perfect, and nice, and now you have to say, hold on, now you have to say, that place you've taken me 7 times, I hated it the first time, you know?
It tastes like feet. It tastes like feet.
I can testify. I've been in that situation. Oh man, I've been in that situation, but I married her, so. Oh man, there is nothing more boring to a blind person than going to sit at a beach to look at the water.
Oh wow. Well, you don't like the breeze on your head, do you?
No, see, I I loved being on the cruise ship, because then there was movement, there was life happening around, and I could gaze out at the water when I wanted to, but it wasn't like, you know, that's all there is, you know, because I like going to sit, but I have to go sit for a reason. Like, I have to go, like, if I want to write, if I want to, you know, I'm a creative person, so I need, you know, every creative person needs the beach, waves, water, wind,
sometime
at some point, right, to you know, to do that. But romance, for me, look, if I sit at this beach too long with you, you probably go fall asleep because you sleepy, you know, because you done finally relaxed. So I guess I should bring a book, you know, you know, something. But it's one of those things where, so I understand, Angie, I understand, or take the blind guy to the museum. Sure.
Oh yeah.
Sure. You know.
Well, you can't touch nothing either.
And then you're not even up on the painting at some museums. You gotta be back behind the. Isn't it beautiful? I'm gonna take.
All look the same. Maybe let it be a Monet museum.
You know, it's all the same painting. And the thing is, I actually love that stuff, but I always found ways around it. But most people, they don't even think about it when they're taking you places like that. Like, I'm not gonna take. Well, I might, but I was like, I'm not gonna take Jules somewhere where there's a lot of waiting involved and very little activity. That's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna put Jules in a hot air balloon and be like, let's just drift for an hour and a half.
Oh
that ain't gonna happen. You know what I'm saying?
God.
She'd be like, is it parachutes? Do we get to jump? Is it what do we get to do? What are we gonna?
Are we eating something at least?
Yeah. Are we? Well, there's wine with all this movement. I don't know. You know.
No, you have me at wine. As long as there's wine.
And we got stinky cheese. That's a good cheese, right?
Yeah,
No, but anyway,
yeah.
Stinky cheese.
That
by
was
the
my
way.
dinner tonight, by the way.
cheese.
Yep.
Yep. But paying attention, I know, like I know that learning to pay attention in the beginning of a relationship is difficult because most of the time people are putting up what they want you to see. But then, like we said, at some point the gas is released. And when that happens, that's the smell of reality hitting you. Dead your face.
It's thick.
It's thick. It's thick. It's so cartoon like. It's like the best one I've seen recently was with Family Guy where the pie held Peter down and tried to take advantage of him and made Quagmire watch like that. It's real thick. Okay, and and in that that's when you realize I have to learn how to talk to this person, and that is very rarely the idea. Because in the beginning, we talk to each other, telling each other about our lives and our stories and this, that, and the other. And we're like, once I explain who I am to you, you're going to have a much better idea of who I am. No, that is like, that's like those tricky things at the beginning of the movie. Oh, it's starting now. No, that wasn't it. Oh, it's starting now. Oh, that's not it either. No, but when the movie really starts is when, and I love this, when the gas is released. Actually, what was it? I'm going to write that down, telling people that work. It's when the real starts to come out, when the real funk of everyday life is upon you. Because, yeah, and if you don't know how to whip the Febreze out at the right time, it's over. If you don't, it's over. Because now you are consumed by this thing. Right? Because you've never learned how to talk. You actually just learned how to explain, but you never learned how to talk. And those are two different things. Because in the beginning, you talk about, like we said, you explain your life story, you talk about your family, you go meet the peoples and all that kind of stuff. And then there comes a point when you get to the part where you're settling into the relationship. That's when most of the fights happen. The settling in process. Why? Because now you said, Lord, I want to be in this fantastic relationship. He's like, cool. Well, let me introduce you to the person I put you with. Fantastic. Now, this may or may not be that person. Let's see how you do in this next phase so that you get to know what you can and cannot deal with. So in that phase, when I was in that phase, it was like he took rock and put it against cement and said, let's see how this feels. But it's this point where you start realizing that this mess hurts, because learning to talk in an everyday situation is way different than where do you want to go? What would you like to do? Oh, I had such a good time with your family. You want to go to a barbecue? Cool. You want to go do this? Cool. You want to go do that? Cool. Sooner or later, all that stuff stops. It has to, because life is smacking you up in your nostrils. You see what I'm saying? And it is saying, get back. Come in. You got stuff you have to actually focus on and do. Because you've changed. Because people don't even realize how much their life has changed. How much things have, like, when I met my wife, I realized I had not been to the studio to record music for like 6 to 8 months at one point. And then, but when I first met her, I was like, oh, cool. She was to the studio with me. She thought it was so wonderful. Blah blah. I was performing. Fantastic. Then we got to the settling in process. Something happens in the settling in process, like right before you start realizing, wait, I'm not doing the stuff I told myself I was going to do. And you're like, what happened? When did that stop? Why did that stop? And then, I was about to say something. I was like, oh, homie, look, don't let you realize why it stopped. I was spending time with her. Oh, that's just not going to fly well with you, because now you're going to say, oh, now they getting in the way of my dream. They done effed up my reality. For what?
For what museums and beaches.
And beaches. What you bringing to the table, But you see what I'm saying? Like, but we all have our own version of that. And and then you figure out whether or not it's worth it to you. You know, like for me, I found it was worth it because then I just started taking her to the studio with me until she got pregnant because people like to smoke weed in the studio. I don't, so I had to say you can't go because you're gonna be inhaling that weed with my baby and you, it ain't gonna happen. So, but you have to think about what has changed and will the person that you're with allow you to get back to it? And I know that word is a very strong word, allow, because without thinking about it, we stop doing most of the stuff we were doing for us that actually fulfilled us because we want to spend time with somebody. But now will you be able to integrate those two together because you're still two people trying to become one force. Timothy is saying, I used to love going golfing. He said, and I realized that since she didn't like it, I just didn't go. Yeah, see. Timothy is funny. He said she didn't like the girls in the shorts and the skirts and stuff.
Hey, Timothy, that's when you say, I
don't either. She didn't believe that, right?
I think it's so inappropriate, honey.
Rubbernecking. Excuse me. But yeah. So, but yeah, we all do it. We all do it because we're trying to find time for the other person, and it's important that we do. But the question is, how, like, at what point do you get back to what you were focused on? People have dropped out of school for relationships. People have done a lot of different things to make sure they have time for relationships because they feel the relationship demands that of them. But at some point, you're going to say, I need to get back to it. And how will, now, are you in a place, and this is something only you can answer because Janine is asking, how do I know when I can go back to doing the things I love to do? Only you can really answer that by asking yourself the question, am I in a place where I can communicate effectively with the one I'm with about what I love to do and what it requires to make that happen? Because I'll tell you something from my experience, and this is with everybody I've dated, okay? I explain thoroughly what it is I do and what it requires. I make it a point to explain it near the beginning of the relationship so that people are not surprised when I say this is what I do. Mm-hmm. They all said, well, you know, I can deal with that, no problem. So then I take a little time to focus on, you know, the relationship, make sure the relationship's strong, blah, blah. But ultimately I end up getting back to exactly what I said I do. I got dance rehearsal, these are the dancers. I got this is the such and such. I go through the whole thing. One girlfriend showed up when I was doing a performance on an acting stage, and she was too happy. But I told her, this is what I do. This is what I was doing when we met. She said, why do you have to put your arm around her waist like that? Because we're dating on stage. And I cannot do this from across the room. Well, why do they have your shirt open? Because, baby, now I would say, baby, because I used to have a good-looking chest. You know? But because they like this look. This is what they wanted. Blah, blah. Fine. You know, this is what the character is. Well, I don't like it. You don't have to kiss her. Well, technically in my script right here, you know what I'm saying? She didn't like it. Oh, she didn't like it. But she always said, oh, I can deal with it. Everybody says it. I can deal with it. Babe, I got a bum leg. I can deal with it. Baby, I got one eye. I can deal with it. Baby, I'm unemployed right now. I can deal with it. Our love can survive anything. Mm-hmm. You know, these are just all real things. I'm not going to just use entertainment. These are real life situations. Now, and these are the ones I've heard this last week. You know, so with that, you know, can you really? You know, or are you just so wanting to be in the relationship? So then when you get back to the fact that you got to use the crutches, that you have to go to the eye doctor, that you have to, you know, that you are out looking for a job, but there's nobody hiring for your particular skill set because you've been replaced by computers, right? And whatever it is, now you're saying, now the person's saying, I thought I could deal with it. I thought I could. So they mad at you. But you were honest. You said, this is where I'm at. They said, I don't see you there.
Your glass is dead.
I thought I was the blind one in this relationship. But this is what really happens. So in trying to balance out, like, if you want your relationship to become balanced out, and that's really an if thing, because some people like things being unbalanced. Some people are very submissive and don't want to assume any responsibility. Some people like to be dominating, okay, and just dominate situations. But if you're looking for a balanced relationship, which is the healthiest kind to be in, then it's time to learn how to pay attention to the one you're with. And as smart as, and I got told this once, as smart as I am at picking up the things about, picking up on people's personalities and characteristics and stuff, at the end of the day, even if I understand, it still requires that I apply what I know, as opposed to just knowing it and saying, I don't got time for that. Because that was my first approach. I ain't got time for that. And I was the person who would fight with you and tell you all the things that I understand is going on with you, but at the end of the day, I ain't got time for that, so fix it.
That's my response.
I know, girl. That's why we here. I think I learned the most about patience in relationships. I think, honestly, when I think about all the things that I've dealt with and gone through, most of it has been me taking the time to understand that the way I talk to people is not going to be the way they talk back to me. And then after I got past the fact that they better talk the way I need them to talk to me, it just wasn't happening, then I had to listen to what they were really saying. And even when I understood, I had to help them understand that I understood what they were. It was a lot of work. It is, because first you have to understand, then you have to help them understand that you understand without them treating it like you think they stupid.
Oh my God, this gave me a headache.
And that's what the words, I know, baby, that's what that really does to people. It makes them like, oh, you do understand. See, I just said it, I broke it down, but we shortened it up when we talk to people. I know, baby. Oh, you do know. It's all in how you say it. It is. So
on that note,
yeah.
I know, baby.
No, see, you can't do it because that would be your shut up. That would turn into your shut up, get over it.
I know, baby.
You would just start cracking up. I know, baby. Like, I know, you just got a little because you have this great sarcastic thing about you. Oh man. So anyway, you guys, we ran it a little longer because we got a late start. But you guys actually sent in some really good questions regarding this particular thing. But at the end of the day, in order to be in a well-balanced relationship, it goes back to learning how to communicate what you're looking for. And at the same time, you have to recognize who you are. Now, I thought we were going to be able to get to number 3 and number 4 in this show. Didn't end up happening because I forget how detailed and how funny some of these things are, because I can tell you honestly, everything on the list that we're going to go through, I have been through more than one time. Okay, so when I get into my experiences in each step of the way, because a lot of you guys say you're laughing so hard you're crying, and I appreciate that, because me too. But these steps, as funny and as light as we try to make it, they're very difficult things. They're not, fly by night. It's going to happen overnight. I'm going to learn how to communicate tomorrow, type thing. It's someone's going to piss you off. Okay, this is really happens. Did that even make? This is what really happens. Okay, someone's going to say something. It's going to piss you off. Nowadays, you also have technology helping you out. People on Facebook, people go to, what do you mean by that statement? I saw that recently on Facebook. Somebody said, oh, I wish I had a chance to breathe. Well, the person they were with The relationship said, "Oh, what do you mean by that?" Because they had just had a trip, a trip or something together. So now to him, he thought it meant, "Oh, you didn't like your time with me."
Mm.
What? She was at work when she wrote that. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? You know that this girl works in a law firm. Why do you think she's bombarded with stuff all day, and you took it about you?
So sensitive.
Sensitive. But anyway, so what's going to happen is someone is going to say something, do something, read something, interpret something, and it's going to, in any way, it's going to piss them off, make them feel insecure, cause them to be all kinds of just emotionally unbalanced, unstable in some small way, right? Then they're going to communicate that to you.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky you. Okay. The first one I remember happening to me was I was tutoring this girl. My girlfriend at the time didn't like the fact that I was tutoring somebody. This girl, I was a senior. This girl was a freshman. She was blind. I was the only one who could read the stuff with her to work with her through this thing because nobody else read Braille.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, I was spending too much time with the girl. How come you never spend that kind of time reading Braille with me? You don't read Braille. Anyway.
Well, I could.
If you taught me, take the time to teach. Oh man, it was. Anyway, so sorry. Anyway, so someone's gonna interpret something that's going on wrong. They're gonna get irritated. They're gonna come at you. Now, this is where communication learning happens. It doesn't happen anywhere before this point. It happens at this point. How are you going to respond? Now, the first couple times, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be wrong. I'm pretty sure. Because my honest response to that thing I just said was what I said. Really? Are you okay in the head? Like, I was just trying to figure out what's wrong with you. But that's not always the... So one of the first things you might want to do when somebody's bringing something to you that doesn't really make any sense. To you, yeah, is, well, what do you mean? Ask them their definition of their interpretation. Okay? I learned, but it took a lot of, like I said, it doesn't happen overnight. I learned I cannot use accusing statements when asking people what they mean, because to me, it was all stupid. So I would say, have you flipped your lid? What does that mean? Are you dumb? Have you lost your mind? What is wrong with you? You see what I'm saying? Like, all these are accusing just statements, right? And people don't really... Now, people with low self-esteem say, you're probably right.
Oh, no.
They do. They do. I know this for a fact. Maybe I'm just not looking at this right. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm just not the one for you, or something like that. I almost dumped all my popcorn on the floor. Oh, good. I thought it all. But then, shake your head at me. But then, you learn that, okay, this person has a perspective, and you have to understand their perspective. Not because it's going to make your life easier right away, but because this perspective will come back up again. And if you don't start to work on understanding how they see the world, why they see the world the way they do, then you're continuously going to only see the world the way you do, which is going to mean that they're always wrong. And that will never lead to balance. It'll lead to some exciting conversation that really is a conversation, but it'll be funny in recap. But it is not going to be productive. It's not going to lead to balance. I'm looking about some of mine right now. Like I said, funny in recap. But but in those moments, you're deciding how you're going to deal with that person, because what if you're saying, I can see us together forever? Well, that means you're going to be dealing with this part of their personality
forever.
Forever. And if you don't know how to deal with this part until they can come out of it, then that part will ultimately win the battle. It will. Because it ain't changing anytime soon. It doesn't see a need to. But this is more than a one-way street. But unfortunately, somebody's always got to start the going down the street. And I will tell you, because I'm usually have to be that doggone person, is
and that's hard.
Girl,
to be the one.
Who you telling? I mean, shoot, girl. See.
So I think sometimes this is how I think. Like, you know how you were saying before, who has a final decision or say or whatever. Sometimes it's more power because it takes more work and more inner strength and God's will and great kindness to be the first one to kind of let it go.
to hold your composure, not lose a sense of who you are, and to move down the road of building, not destroying. That takes a lot of work, because that scripture talks about bringing your flesh under subjection, not letting yourself wild out. You see what I'm saying? And if you like to wild out like I like to wild out, then it takes a lot of work. You see what I'm saying? But while going down that road, this is what I was going to say, they actually get more aggressive. It doesn't back down at first. They try to back down. They try to get to where you're trying to go, but then something else on that road sets them off, and they feel like, well, doggone it, da-da-da. And then here's the speech that I've gotten, which is, you think you're better than me, don't you? Because I'm upset, and you're not even upset. Now, don't answer that question, because neither one of those, because you're not gonna really get. It's not gonna work out well. You say, no, I don't think that at all, which might be the truth, but they're gonna say, oh, yes, you do. They changed your answer.
If you say, yes, I do, see,
I know it. You know, and so the only way to really answer that type of situation, because I have dated people who have all of them have active imaginations. So no matter what you say, especially my ex, no matter what you say, she is going to take it the wrong way. There is no right way in her book. There was not a right way. So I had to learn how to phrase things in a way that she could no longer take it the wrong way. That made me sweat just thinking about it. But
like, holy crap, a lot of work.
No, it is. But relationships are what people.
Socrates, writing.
Because you know what I referred it to? I looked at it as learning kung fu. You know, and causing people to, without hurting them, causing them to move past you. So move that thing off. So so here's how I've learned to do it. Get an understanding of what they mean. If they don't know how to not be confrontational, because there are people who just don't know how not to be. They don't want to be confrontational, but they don't know how not to be confrontational when they feel what they feel. And lately, people have a lot of feelings. They feel a lot lately, right? So because of it, God, y'all got anyway. But feel a lot. So what happens is, first you got to be patient. Then you got to take time to understand what they're trying to say. If they don't know how to not be confrontational with you, then what you got to do is you have to figure out how to talk to the person outside of the responses they give. Because I would get things like, oh, you think she's pretty, don't you? Well, I know, because you think you can just put me to the side and she's always... I said, no, I said that she's perfect for the part. She looks like the character. Oh, so I don't look like the character? You're not even acting in the... What are you talking... What? And, that was going on in my head. But then what ended up coming out was, no, I said, I don't see you as a character, because I only see you as the person I want to be with. And right now, that's all I can really focus on. And and on top of that, I'm just happy that you're here with me right now. Everything I said was all about her and how wonderful she is. All of a sudden...
Oh, that just got me so frustrated. Oh... I got, anxiety,
because
I can't even verbally express how much that frustrates me right now.
Because, like, I've seen women do it to men, I've seen men do it to women, but it's one of those things because all somebody was looking for was to be acknowledged. And so they're lashing out because they don't know how to fit into whatever area they're talking about. Am I important enough? Is my hopes and dreams as important as your hopes and dreams? And then you cannot say, which I'm going to tell y'all now because I've said it, you ain't got no hopes and dreams. You're trying to hang out with me. You're trying to ride on my hopes and dreams bus, So what are you talking about? But all of a sudden, don't say things like that, you guys. Don't do it.
Sometimes reality checks. What are your hopes and dreams? Do you know?
Right.
You do tell me.
but no. What you do is you sit down. It's gonna be a long road. I'm like, you turn, Jules. You turn, not your turn. You turn. But because my thing is gonna be because I do get to that. I'm like, well, you've never really talked to me about what your hopes and dreams are. Maybe we should sit down and talk about it. Oh, that would be nice. Well, I'm really not quite sure. And this is how it always. I'm really not quite sure, but I know that I really want to do something.
Then figure that out, and then get back to me. I don't got time for this.
Jasmina, I hope I said that right, says, Jules, have you ever thought about just keeping D in your purse?
Technically, he is. He's on the speed dial on my phone.
Oh man, but yeah. So you guys, look, we're way out of time. But we wanted to give you guys that full hour-and-a-half experience. But the real of it is, be patient, understand the person, learn what they need to hear from you. The same way you want them to learn how to talk to you, you're going to have to learn how to talk to them. And I guarantee you, one of you is going to be a faster learner than the other because it always works that way.
Yeah.
Been married
to wrap it all up in a nice bow, I have a quote from Socrates, actually. I found it the other day, and I was like, oh, this is really good, but it just kind of, I didn't mean for this to happen, but it fits in right with the show. The quote is, "The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new."
That's very nice.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, he's so smart.
Mm-hmm. Must have been one of my proteges. One of my proteges. No.
Oh, good Lord. Anyway,
you guys, have a great night, a great week. Work on learning to listen and respond in the voice that your person needs to hear.
Oh, that's so hard.
Remember to breathe.
We love you guys. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. It's Joel.
This is Simply D. Oh, man.
This has been the Innermix Show. Hang out. Have a good night.
Oh, social media.
All
Facebook.
Right.
We keep forgetting to do that. On Facebook, you can find us at Innermix Show. Innermix, not Innermix Show. Innermix. On Twitter. Intermix _ show. Mm-hmm.
On Instagram, Intermix360.
Mm-hmm. And then there's this.
All right. Which you know because you're here.
No, you don't, because it only brought you into this. Intermix Show is what you wanted, plus Intermix Show. I found out that when we said that they should know because they're watching us, when they watch the link, turns out that it doesn't take them to our actual page, it just takes them right into the Hangout itself.
Oh. Okay. Plus Innermix Show.
There you go.
There you go.
You guys have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.